So what if the smartest, safest assumption you can make about your entire network is that it's already been compromised? It sounds crazy, right? But that's the core idea behind Zero Trust. It's a security philosophy that is completely tearing down the old rulebook. Today, we're going to demystify what it is, why it's so incredibly important, and how it actually works. Let's dive in.
To really get where we're headed, you've got to look back at where this all started. And believe it or not, this quote is from way back in 2007. A group called the Jericho Forum saw the writing on the wall way before most people did. Deperimeterization, yeah, it's a mouthful, but it just means our digital walls are dissolving. They saw that our old ways of protecting things were losing their punch, and that one insight really set the stage for this massive shift that we're seeing today.
All right, so to appreciate this new way of thinking, we first have to talk about what it's replacing. Let's take a look at the old model, what everyone calls the castle and moat approach to security.
Just picture it. A medieval fortress. You've got these massive walls, a super deep moat, and you pull up the drawbridge. The goal is simple, right? Keep the bad guys out. Well, in the digital world, that wall is your network perimeter. And for decades, the rule was just as simple. If you somehow got past that wall, you were in. You were trusted. It's an easy idea to grasp, but it has a huge, fatal flaw.
See, that simplicity is also its biggest weakness. Our digital world just doesn't have clear walls anymore. We've got people working from home, we've got cloud apps, personal phones connecting from everywhere. That perimeter is basically gone. And here's the real kicker. Once an attacker gets past that wall, they're inside and they're trusted. They can just move around freely, what we call lateral movement, bouncing from system to system, and cause an incredible amount of damage.
And this table, man, it just lays out how completely opposite the thinking is. Perimeter security, it's all about this built-in, long-term trust inside a static wall. Zero Trust throws that whole idea out the window. Trust is never a given. Access is temporary. It's just for one specific transaction. And the perimeter itself, it becomes dynamic, redrawn around every single interaction. It's a total flip.
So this isn't just about rolling out a new tool or a new piece of software. It's a completely fundamental change in philosophy. It's finally admitting that in our modern, hyper-connected world, we have to start from a totally different set of assumptions.
So here's the official definition from the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, or NIST. And just look at the key phrases here. Never granted implicitly and continually evaluated. The entire concept is built on assuming your network is already a hostile environment. You stop trying to protect these imaginary lines on a map, and you start protecting the actual data and services themselves.
If you only remember one single thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. This is the heart and soul of Zero Trust. Never trust, always verify. It means you challenge every single request for access. It doesn't matter if it's coming from inside or outside your old walls, you have to prove you are who you say you are every single time.
Okay, that all sounds great in theory, right? But how does this always verify thing actually play out in the real world? Let's walk through a quick scenario to see Zero Trust in action.
This example shows the power of the model perfectly. So, the CFO gets into Salesforce from home. Everything checks out. The user, the device, the location, it all looks normal. But then, a few minutes later, a new request comes in from that same user. But this time, it's to access the company's source code. A traditional system, it would probably just allow it. But a Zero Trust system doesn't care about that initial login. It reevaluates. It asks, is this normal for the CFO? The answer is no. So it immediately flags the request and demands another check, like Face ID. It's a constant, intelligent, context-aware process.
Okay, so we get the philosophy. Now, let's move on to the blueprint. Let's see how all of this builds into a structured architecture that companies can actually go out and implement. To turn this philosophy into something you can actually practice, NIST laid out 7 foundational rules, or tenets. You could think of these as the constitution for any Zero Trust architecture. They're the core rules of the game.
And these rules really just formalize everything we've been talking about. Things like treat everything as a resource to be protected. Secure all communication, no matter where it is. Make access temporary on a per-session basis. But the big takeaway here is that you have to continuously monitor everything, and then use all that data you're collecting to constantly get smarter and tighten up your security.
So here's the crucial part. These 7 tenets aren't just abstract ideas floating around. They are meant to be applied directly to the core components that make up pretty much any modern IT environment.
The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, gives us this fantastic framework with these 5 pillars. First, you start with identity. prove who the user is. Then you secure the devices they're using. You use microsegmentation on your networks to stop threats from spreading. You protect your applications and workloads. And then, at the very center of it all, you protect the data itself. This is the blueprint. You apply those 7 rules across these 5 pillars, and that's how you build zero trust.
Now, this framework is pretty comprehensive, right? Which leads to a really, really important question. How does a company actually get there?
And this is absolutely critical to understand. Zero trust is not a switch you can just flip. It's not a single product you can go out and buy off a shelf. It is a journey. It's a gradual evolution of your entire security culture, moving from that old traditional mindset to a much more mature, dynamic one.
CIS's maturity model shows this journey perfectly. Let's just take the identity pillar as an example. You might start in the traditional column with just simple passwords. Then you level up to initial by requiring strong multi-factor authentication. Then you get to advanced with things like phishing-resistant hardware keys. And finally, you reach the optimal state with continuous validation and what's called just-in-time, just-enough access to do a very specific job. It's a clear roadmap for how to make progress.
And you should make no mistake, this is not some niche idea. The market for zero trust security is projected to absolutely explode to over $50 billion. That number isn't just about selling software. It reflects a massive, fundamental, and necessary shift in how every single organization has to operate if they want to defend themselves today.
So, to bring it all home, zero trust is the evolution we have to make. We are way beyond the era of the isolated castle. Our digital world is now a sprawling, borderless city with countless ways in and out and countless interactions happening all at once. And securing that city requires a fundamentally more intelligent, dynamic, and vigilant approach.
Which leaves us with a final question for you to think about. As our digital walls continue to dissolve, are you thinking deeply enough about how you're going to secure every door, every window, every single transaction? Because in a world without a perimeter, the only defense that truly matters is the one you build around the things you value the most.